what are some of the top Medicaid mistakes that New Yorkers make? I think first and foremost is not understanding that 5-year look back rule, which means that, Medicaid examines financial transactions that are made within the 5 years prior to a Medicaid application. And many New Yorkers don't quite understand that this rule exists and that they make financial transfers that lead to penalty periods delaying their eligibility for Medicaid, right? They just don't quite get that. There's also improper use of transfers. So people who do know about it think, oh, let me get rid of these assets, move them out of my name, and they transfer them to a child or someone that they trust, and not realizing that transferring those assets without understanding the implications can also result in disqualification or lengthy penalty periods, right? So like I said, some people think that gifting those assets will protect them, but this often backfires due to the look back rule. Another mistake is I think people wait too long. Many individuals only start planning when the need for long-term care is imminent, right? This delay can limit the strategies that are available to protect assets and can interfere with the look-back period, resulting in penalties. Another example, a mistake is overlooking exempt assets. Some assets, like certain homes, your primary residence typically, personal property, some burial plots or insurance, those might not count towards your Medicaid asset limit. And failing to recognize and properly manage your exempt assets can lead to unnecessary spend downs, right? So people start spending down things that they don't actually need to spend down. Another one is neglecting spousal protections. Medicaid rules allow for protection to ensure the community spouse, who is the spouse that's not entering into care, isn't left impoverished. Not leveraging spousal refusal or not understanding the minimum and maximum allowances can result in financial hardships itself. Then people fail to use trusts properly. So they create trusts, especially the Medicaid Asset Protection Trust. It can be an extremely powerful tool when structured correctly. However, mistakes in setting it up or in funding it or in managing the trust can jeopardize Medicaid eligibility. And people don't quite understand that. And then I think people try to rely on generic documents or outdated documents that they found online somewhere, right? And I think relying on generic or non-state specific or even an outdated power of attorney document can create obstacles when trying to execute Medicaid planning strategies. So briefly, just about power of attorneys, right? All power of attorneys aren't created equally. There's your standard power of attorney that gives you rights to normal things like real estate transactions, doing business transactions, and some things like that. But then there's a more expanded or enhanced power of attorney that we use in elder law, and that can be used for applying for Medicaid and doing some other activities associated with your long-term care, right? And the reason that is more enhanced is because some of these things need to be specifically mentioned inside your power of attorney document. And a lot of people don't know that, or general attorneys who don't practice in this area don't quite know that. So they give you a normal power of attorney thinking it'll get the job done. But what it actually does is it creates this issue for you later on down the line. Another mistake that people make is they overlook pooled income trusts. So I talked a little bit about the Medicaid asset limits, right? But then there are also Medicaid income limits, right? So asset limits refer to all of your assets that you have in your savings account, right? All these things that you have, there's a limit for that. But then income is the money that you're receiving on a monthly basis or weekly, however you're receiving it, right? But typically on a monthly basis, you can't exceed a certain amount with that, right? So there's a tool called a pooled income trust that can help people qualify when their income is over that Medicaid income limit. All right. And it's an extremely valuable tool, and we'll talk about it a little bit later on, but many either don't know about it or they fail to utilize it effectively. All right. And then, one of the last mistakes is they don't seek professional guidance. People try to do some of these things on their own. But Medicaid rules are intricate and they're constantly evolving. And attempting to navigate that process without the proper professional guidance can lead to costly mistakes, right? It's crucial to consult with a Medicaid planning attorney, preferably one with New York's specific knowledge, because while Medicaid is a federal program, it's also a state program, and the rules change according to each state, right? So let me say that differently. Medicaid is not the same in each state. We have different rules, we have different limits, right? Medicaid in New York is not Med-Cal in California, right? It's completely different, and they have different rules. So you want to make sure that you're working with someone who actually knows the rules of New York, or they can put you in a potentially worse situation than you currently are.